Hey everybody, it's Risa from Hudson Valley Vintage. Welcome, welcome. I am at the shop. Kevin had to work in the city today. Oh, brr. And so I am in the shop, and today we are going to have some fun. We're going to compare and demonstrate how to use a couple of different texture mediums. So if you're not familiar with a texture medium is an additive that you put in your paint, and it gives the paint texture, hence the name texture medium. And it does a lot of different things. So the texture medium can make your paint, your surface, give it some extra interest. It literally can look like stone. There's lots of different things. So why don't I'll show you first what it looks like. So what I did was, this is how it's going to work. So I did this yesterday, and we're using 3 different types. I'm going to show you all 3 and explain the differences and show you how to use them. And this is really good. This view that you guys have, I can tell, is really good because it is really showing you what it looks like dry. So I have Crust right here. This is from Couture. I have Fresco, not to be confused with Fresca. Just had to throw that in. Anyway, this is the Couture Fresco, and this is Salt Wash. So they all do the same thing, and what I'm going to do is do a little demonstration with each one. I'm going to talk about how you use them, how you apply them, and I have a new board right here that I haven't painted on yet, so that's what we're going to do tonight. So this is what it looks like. What I did was I painted it on there, and then I kind of took my brush and I kind of like made it like sort of like you would do to a cake. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Okay, so let's put this to the side and we're going to get started. So the 3 that we're going to look at today are Crust from Couture. Now Crust is a product that we carry in the store. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is, and it comes in a jar. The second one is Fresco. That's from Fusion Mineral Paint. We also carry this in the store. I don't know if you can see this on Instagram. I have the cameras like sort of near each other. And then the last one is Salt Wash. Now we don't carry Salt Wash, but I really have been wanting to try it and compare it to the others. So that's what we're going to do. So just a quick overview. So the Couture Crust comes in a jar, and it's actually soft. So I'm going to show you what I mean in a second. The Couture from I apologize. The Fresco from Fusion comes in this little sack. This is the larger size. It comes in a smaller size as well. It comes in powder form, and you mix it with paint. You mix the crust with paint as well, or you can use it on its own and then paint over it. And then the Salt Wash is also a powder, and you mix it in paint. So how would you use these? So I use these on my farmhouse clocks. When we do our farmhouse workshop, what it does is it makes the wood look older by making it look rough, make it look weathered. That's a great way to use it. That's when it's used most often in that way. But it also has another great use. So if you have a piece that has damage and you either don't want to fix it or can't fix it, or maybe it's not worth fixing it, what you can do is mix your paint in with these texture mediums and paint over the damage, and it should cover it up. So, one more thing I want to mention. Okay, so like I said, we carry the Fusion Fresco, and we also carry the Paint Couture Crust. We don't carry the salt wash, but I know it's pretty popular, so I wanted to check it out anyway. So the Fusion Fresco, which we have been carrying since it came out. We've been Fusion mineral paint retailers for 6 years, since 2016. So the large size is $28 of the Fusion Fresco. Now it says 400 grams, so I did a little conversion, and that is about 14 ounces. So it's about a pint, just under a pint. So that's $28. It also comes in a smaller size, and that is 2.6 ounces, or 75 grams if you go by grams, and that's $12. Okay, so that's the Fusion. If anybody wants to figure out how much that is in an ounce, let us know. Okay, the crust, which is already pre-mixed, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that in a second, comes in 16 ounces, so that's a pint, and the crust is $25, okay? And lastly, the salt wash also comes in a little, it's like a little mini paint can, sort of, and it comes in 2 sizes. This is the 10 ounce, and now I believe it's $18. Don't quote me, because I looked on a couple of different sites and got a couple of different prices, but it's in the area of $18. And then the larger size is 42 ounces. That's a big, I'm guessing that's like the size of maybe that's a quart? I don't know. Does anybody know how many 42 ounces, is that a quart? I need a mathematician on here. Where's Sheila? Where's my teacher? Anyway, 42 ounces is I found it anywhere from $36 to $42. So that'll give you an idea. And by the way, there's a lot of information in this particular live, so you guys may want to go back later and watch it again. Oh, 32 ounces is a quart. Okay, so the large size of the salt wash, 42 ounces, is bigger than a quart, just to explain. So we're going to use the same paint color for all 3. This is from Fusion Mineral Paint. It's called Paisley, and it's one of the new 11 colors that just came out. And it's actually the same color that I used on here. And interestingly enough, I think from this angle you can see the paint is slightly different with the salt wash. I think that the crust, you guys tell me, I think with the crust and the Fresco, the color hasn't changed. But with the salt wash, it looks darker to me and maybe a little green. And this is not anywhere green at all. So you guys let me know what you think on your end. But this is the salt wash, this is the Fresco, and this is the crust. They're all dry, and I think these two look identical color-wise. This to me looks a little green. Yeah, it's definitely darker. It's definitely darker. Okay, what I'll do is I'll take pictures after and post them in the comments. Okay, so let's start with Paint Couture's crust. And again, it comes in this jar. We do sell it here. It's $25, and it's actually pre-mixed. So I'm going to show it to you close up. So this is what it looks like. It's almost like a paste. It's got like a whitish color. Okay. So what I like to do when I use a texture medium is I always use a cup, something that I can throw away usually. I mean, you could clean out your container right away and reuse it, but I usually use something disposable. I like to put a teeny drop of paint in the bottom. And when I say teeny, I mean like just enough to coat the bottom. I just find that it's easier to mix that way, okay? Then I'm going to take a popsicle stick, and I'm going to, let me put this here, and I'm just going to take about a tablespoon of crust out and put it in my cup. I don't have a tablespoon with me, so I'm measuring by sight, which I am not great at, but I think that's okay. Okay. Maybe just a tinge more. Okay, and now I'm going to add a little bit more paint on top. And by the way, let me just tell you real quick what it says. So it says crust is a rough acrylic plaster designed to create an aged or crusty look for your furniture and cabinets. It is speckled with a natural mineral from the earth that adds interest and texture. It says apply over wood or painted surfaces using a trowel, bondo blade, or brush. We're going to use a brush, maybe thinned with 10% water. Can be used in stencils or applied randomly to create an aged look. Once dry, it can be painted, glazed, and or top coated. All right, so I have my crust and my paint in here, and I'm going to take my popsicle stick and stir it up. I want to mix it, but I don't want to over mix it. So what I mean is I want to mix it to a consistency of like a cottage cheese. And then I want to stop, because if you over mix it, you're going to break down the lumps, and you want the lumps. So I'll show you what it looks like. You want to mix it enough so that your paint is completely coats the crust, but not so much that it smooths out. So here's what it looks like. And I've only mixed up the tiniest bit because I have, my whole board here is 17 by 6 approximately. So I'm just using a regular synthetic brush. You could use, like it said, a bondo blade. You can use a trowel. I always use a brush, even if it's thicker. I just find it to be easier. And yes, it looks crusty, that's for sure. All right, I'm trying to get this to where you can see it. So I'm just going to brush it on there. And it is nice and crusty. It's got lots of texture. The paint that I'm using, Fusion Mineral Paint, and also Paint Couture, they are both zero VOC paints. So there is no odor. Okay, super easy. So I just put this on with a brush. And if I want to get like more peaks and more texture, I'm just kind of dabbing my board and pulling it away, and pulling away with the brush. Just kind of like pulling it away. And it gives little peaks. Really easy. And let's see, let's smell it. Smell-o-vision. It does have a little bit of a smell. It has a slight odor. Yesterday Barb and Sheila were here and they said it smelled sort of like, I don't know what the product was, but I think it was plaster. So that's what it looks like. Super easy to do. Okay, so that's the crust. And we're going to use the same color for all three so that we can have a fair assessment of the products. So we've got our crust on. That sounds really funky, right? We've got our crust on. Okay. I'm drinking my Fresco while I put on my Fresco. Okay, so now we're going to go to the Fresco. Did I say that right? So I'm putting a drop of my paisley paint into my second cup. Just a little drop. The reason I do that is because I feel as though when I put the texture medium directly onto the bottom of the cup and then put the paint, I have a harder time stirring it. But if I put just the tiniest bit, I have about a dime size that I spread around into the bottom of the cup. It's easier to stir it and mix it up. All right, so I've got my Fresco, and I put a tablespoon measurer inside, and I'm going to measure out a tablespoon. And I don't know if you guys can see exactly what it looks like, but it's just a white powder. Okay, so I'm going to drop that in. And let's see, you know what, before we do that, let's do the same thing that we did with the crust. So what does this say? It says, Fresco gives you the perfect sea-swept, weathered, warm and rustic textured look. Fresco is 100% natural and contains no VOCs. That means it shouldn't smell, so we'll see if that's true. We're using a zero VOC paint, so that should be the case if it's zero VOCs. Depending on your mix and application, you will get a different end result. Follow below for the look you want to achieve. Layer and continue until your desired effect is achieved. So it says for a textured look, like what we're doing today, 1 part Fresco to 2 parts Fusion mineral paint. You can use it with any paint, but we do carry Fusion, so that's what I'm using. For a matte chalky finish, add 2 tablespoons of Fresco to 1 pint of Fusion mineral paint. So if you'd want your Fusion mineral paint or your paint couture to be more like a chalk-based paint, you could do that. All right, so it also says apply mixture to your paint-ready surface. Allow to set for 10 to 20 minutes. Knock down any heavy lumps by passing your brush over them. Once fully dry, continue with additional colors and layers of paint. Okay, stippling adds texture, and that's what we were doing before. We were stippling with the brush, and we're going to do the same thing. So let me add a little Fusion to this. I am not using a measuring cup to eye my paint, only because I've done this enough times that, you know, I know how it should look, and what it should be like. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm adding 1 part paint to 1 part Fresco. So I'll show you what it looks like. And again, you want to mix it up enough that all the powder is covered by the paint, but not so much that you get rid of the lumps. You want the lumps. So you want to have like a cottage cheese, consistency. So I'm going to use another brush and apply the Fresco. Now I can see already that it's not as lumpy as the crust. Now that could be because maybe I put more crust in than the Fresco. I don't know. I felt like I was being very using the same amount. So I'm just using a regular synthetic brush, nothing special, and putting this on. And it's definitely a little smoother than the crust. Of course I could add more Fresco, but I'm trying to use the same kind of hand on all of them. And now I'm going to stipple a little bit. So this is the Fusion Mineral Paints Fresco. The first one I did was Paint Couture's Crust. And if I'm getting them confused, I apologize. I will definitely clear that up at the end. Okay. All right, so I did a very similar kind of stippling effect, and I'll show you so far. So before I get started with the salt wash, let's take a look at what their container says. So here it says, salt wash, boy, this is small. I can barely read it. Okay. Salt wash creates a variety of faux effects such as salvage, antique wood, rust, sea glass, verdigris, and more when mixed to paint. Simply mix salt wash powder to any brand or type of paint and apply in the technique of the faux effect desired. Steps to create various faux effects can be found in the Salt Wash Ideas Lookbook online. Okay, so the directions for salt wash. Mix the salt wash powder to any paint of your choice until the consistency becomes thick and icing-like. Increase or decrease depending on the type of paint you choose. Then it says apply in a glob-like technique, gently pulling up the peaks of the mixture, which is really what we did with the others. We were kind of stippling it. Lightly knock down the peaks formed as layer gets tacky dry. Once the salt wash layer is completely dry, apply your top coat of paint. This paint will have no salt wash in it. That's a layering technique that we're not going to get into tonight. We'll actually do that another night because that's a really fun technique. Once your top coat paint is totally dry, lightly sand to reveal the salt wash. All right, that's layering. We're not going to do that tonight. We'll do that another night. But Barb was mentioning the, so somebody told me, another Fusion mineral paint retailer, because we do retail Fusion and Paint Couture, told me that when she used the salt wash with a pale color, it looked green. And here we go. We have paisley, which is a Fusion color. It's a soft gray blue, no green in it. It's not green at all. It's a soft blue, very pretty. We used it with all three. So this is the Crust from Paint Couture. This is the Fresco from Fusion, and then this is the Salt Wash from Salt Wash. And the Salt Wash definitely looks a little bit darker. I don't think it looks green necessarily. There might be a little bit of a greenish hue in person, but it definitely looks darker. To me, these two look identical, and they look the same as the paint. So that's definitely something that you want to think about. Okay. All right, so let's get our salt wash going. I have a cup. I'm going to do it the same exact way. I'm going to put a little squirt of paint on the bottom, just the teeniest bit. I'm just looking to coat the bottom of my container. Okay, so I have a teaspoon here as well. The salt wash comes with a teaspoon. I'm sorry, tablespoon. It comes with it inside the little can. And I've got a level, I'm using a level tablespoon, and that's what it looks like. Okay. And I'm gonna dump this into my little cup. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more paint on top. Just a little bit more. I'm trying to use the same amount of the texture medium with the paint as I did with all three. So I'll show you what it looks like. Let me get this out of here. I don't know how well you can see it. Okay, and now I'm going to just use the same type of brush. I'm doing everything identical. I'm using the same kind of brush. I'm mixing it the same way. I'm using the same amount of paint. So it's a true test of the three products. It's a true comparison. And this is really fun, by the way. I could do this all day. Okay, so I've painted all three now. I use the same amount of texture medium and paint, and I use the same color paint, the same brush, and I'm putting it on the same surface. So we've got the, you know what, let me make sure I'm right before I tell you what's what. Okay, the one on the right is the Paint Couture Crust. The next one is the Fusion Fresco. And the next one, the last one is Sea Salt. So there we go. I have, luckily enough, I did this yesterday, and I have a dry one of this, and we'll take a look at that right now. So I will swap out the one that's still wet that I just painted. There we go. With the dry one. And there we go. So this is the crust right here. I'm showing them on Instagram as well as Facebook. So if I'm not directly showing it to you, oh, sorry, Julie. You're right. Let's see. Very little odor. There's a slight odor to the sea salt, but it is not offensive at all. None of them are offensive. The Fusion Fresco, I don't think had an odor at all. You know what? It smells exactly the same as salt wash. But I don't think that they're identical to one another. I used a medium color on purpose because I had heard that if you use a very light color, the salt wash could turn it slightly greenish. I don't know if that's true. I haven't done that myself, so I don't want to say anything that I don't know firsthand. That's why I'm doing it here. So this is the color. There's the Paint Couture Crust. There's the Fusion Fresco, and there's the salt wash. I think it's slightly darker. Okay. So just to recap, and I did do, I did stipple it just like I did when I painted it. See that? So you can see that the salt wash is slightly darker. A little bit. It looks like it's going to make your paint color maybe like a shade darker. Okay. So they all feel very textured. As you can see, they have a lot of texture. I think that they would sand very easily. We're going to do another tutorial on this, and we're going to, all right, let me see. So I'm using I shouldn't do this, I just got a manicure literally an hour ago. I'm going to use a popsicle stick. I just got a manicure. We have a great place right across the street from our shop, so I was there. All right, so this is the Paint Couture, and it is not, I'm not able, I mean, I'm not like going crazy with it, you know, but I'm kind of jabbing it a little bit. This is the Paint Couture, the Fusion Fresco. It holds up pretty well too. And this is the salt wash, and it's also holding up. Okay. I have a couple of these like little pieces that are almost loose, and I can knock those off. So yes, you can sand it back. So if it dries and it's too much for you, you can sand it back. I'm not going to do that right now. We're going to save that for another time, because we're going to do like a layering technique on another one of our lives. But you can, so if you have a piece that you want to give more of a little rustic look, I've seen people take, so go to like the dollar store, go to a tag sale. If you go to Restore, which is Habitat for Humanity Restore, and you find like a vase. You can paint it and put this on and give it like a stone look. I've used it on planters to give them a stone look, like a plastic planter, to make it look like it's stone. We use it on our farmhouse clocks to make them look a little bit aged. If Kevin was here, I'd take one off the wall and show you, but I'll do that when we do the second part of this, which we'll do either next week or the following. And one of the really great uses of these is that if you have a piece of furniture or a project or whatever it might be that maybe has a lot of scratches on it, maybe there's a veneer that's lifted, whatever the case might be, maybe it needs some repair and you aren't either able or want to repair it, you can clean it really well, you know, just prep like you normally would, and then put some Fresco into your Fresco or Crust or salt wash, excuse me. Too many things to remember right now. In with your paint, and you're going to cover a lot of those problems. So thank you so much for watching. Like I said before, Kevin had to go into the city today, so I'm by myself in the shop, but really happy to be with you guys. Thank you guys so much. Have a great evening, and I will see you soon.